memories, and I was kind of letting her know maybe the tree wasn't a tree. Sounds like the tree was something else. I've heard of these stories of people saying that they stop at a diner or a restaurant on the side of a road only to have the whole family wake up the next day and to find that there was nothing there, that they pulled over into wilderness or desert and literally nothing there. One of them was they remembered going into a restaurant with like Christmas tree lights all around it. You know, one of the parents or the kids like started piecing it together. They were like, I think the restaurant was a UFO and the Christmas lights were like the lights of the UFO, and it was trying to make us think it was a restaurant. Another one was like some kind of diner, and the guy pulled over. And I think he said he remembered seeing like one of those like old-fashioned lights strung up that was wiggling back and forth, waving back and forth in the wind and stuff and he said he thought that was a good place to park and go to sleep or something. But when he woke up, he found that he drove his car completely off the side of the road and even like damaged it a little bit or something. I've heard a few of these stories like where people are like they swear that they see not just like a UFO or a spaceship or an alien or something, but they see like a full-on structure. It's just a disguise as something else. Screen memories are, if you kind of listen to a lot of these like stories of UFOs and glitch in the matrix type things and paranormal things, a lot of these things end up kind of like alien type things or dimensional beings that can play tricks with your mind. Like a magician plays a card trick. They can kind of just play your mind like that. So the next story here is going to be almost like a glitch. I've touched on some of these stories where people say that they just wake up and their whole world is different. This guy sounded very upset when he wrote this. He says, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to start where the story takes off. I don't know what's going on with me right now. I'm genuinely considering seeking professional help. I live in a really small shared dorm apartment with 2 roommates. There's this hallway that if you face it, there are 2 bedrooms on your right, 1 bedroom on your left, and a closet at the end of the hallway facing you. The bedroom on the left is right next to the closet. When we moved in, my roommate always complained that they got a closet instead of a bathroom like me and my other roommate had in our rooms. This closet has a bunch of our shared stuff, including my clothes, gifts, keepsakes, whatever. Today I got back from visiting my parents and I came back to put away some clothes in this closet. But I opened it and saw a effing bathroom. A bathroom with a toilet and a shower and everything. I was only gone for 2 days, and we rent this place, so it couldn't have been randomly built or some S word. I told my roommates, but they said it's always been a effing bathroom, and they had no idea what the hell I was talking about. I can't find any of the stuff that was in the closet anymore, even though I had a ton of memorable keepsakes, he's writing in caps, in that effing closet. What the F? I spent all day just sulking in my room feeling miserable. I'm not crazy, but that bathroom was an effing closet just 3 days ago. I feel like I'm losing my GD mind. I'm genuinely considering seeing a psychologist right now. This isn't the first time I've heard about this. I've heard about people waking up with different decorations in their room. I've heard of another one. Check this one out. Saturday morning, I'm at home in my front room watching soccer, and it's a normal day. I'm not hungover or ill or anything, but as I'm watching TV, I suddenly get the worst headache I've ever experienced. It was literally crippling. I felt like I couldn't even move. I remember thinking to myself, just close your eyes and wait for it to go away. So that's what I did. At this point, I decided just to roll over and lie down, and the next thing that I know, I wake up and I'm in bed, and I remember it clear as day. I wasn't dreaming or anything. I was now wide awake, and I still had a little bit of a headache, but I was feeling much better. I assumed that I must have gone upstairs, probably with my parents' help, and I just slept it off, but that's when things started to get really strange. Although I was wide awake, I immediately realized that I was not in my bedroom. In fact, I didn't recognize the house. Now, again, I would like to stress, I was not dreaming. This was absolutely real. It felt real. And I have no memory of how I ended up in this house or in this room that I didn't recognize. So there I am collecting my thoughts, and I realize that I can hear noise coming from downstairs. In fact, it sounds quite lively. I can hear music and laughter and talking, but I'm really worried because I don't recognize the room that I'm in. So at this point, I was still trying to figure things out, and I just decided to stay in the room that I was in, but I was still feeling kind of strange. And since I heard noise coming from downstairs, I decided to get up and see what was going on. I walked out into the hallway, and it was immediately obvious that there was some kind of get-together or some kind of party going on at this house. At this point, I still didn't recognize where I was, but it did feel familiar, especially because I recognized most of the people that stood in the hallway. The first person that I come across was my uncle. I remember him asking me if I was feeling better. This was starting to make sense in some way, but I was worried that maybe I was suffering from some kind of memory problem. So I played along, like I knew exactly what he was talking about. But deep down, I still wasn't sure, and I just said, yeah, much better, I'm okay. And then I proceeded to have a good chat with him about work, home, the usual. We decided to part ways, and as we're leaving, he'll say something to me that I'll never forget. He says, "Thanks again for having us around tonight. I'm really enjoying it." Now, this is where it really gets weird, and it's at this point that I'm starting to suspect that some kind of prank or trick is being played. I was definitely not dreaming. It was all real. I can picture the house clear as day. I think it means laminate floors, and the old-fashioned staircase, and the really nice kitchen. So I moved through this party or get-together recognizing maybe 80% of the people. And then there's this one girl who was staring at me, and I don't have a clue as to who she is. This is when I'm really beginning to get suspicious as something is definitely not right. Even the people that are recognized seem very different and have this completely different energy to them. Okay, now here's where it all kicks off. I guarantee you're not going to believe this next paragraph, but I swear on it. So I've talked to a couple of the people that I recognized and eventually make my way to the entryway and into the kitchen. Next to the kitchen door, there's a small chest of drawers with a newspaper on top. I pick up the newspaper for one reason or another. I don't really read the headline, although it has one on it, or look at the picture or anything else. And the date says Saturday, March 31st, 2018. So to him, that's weird because he posted this in 2019. Now, please, if anybody can explain this, I would appreciate it. My immediate thought that this was some kind of prank, so I was so scared when I read the date that I just stared at it for like a few minutes. I didn't even read the actual headline or anything else on the paper. I remembered I had something to do with trains. I remember looking for one of my friends nearby to ask them when a hand lands on my shoulder. It's the girl who's been staring at me the whole time. She pulls me into the kitchen and closes the door behind us. This girl says that she's not sure if I'm playing a trick on her, but about an hour ago, I told her that I had a headache and that I needed to give her a note about something. Okay, so he told her before that he had a headache and he needed to give her a note about something, so she handed me back that note, and she tells me that if this is a joke, it's not very funny or believable, and then she walks out of the kitchen. Now, I'm not going to relay everything that was on that note because some of the information that was on there was very personal, and I'm not going to tell you about it, but basically it consisted of a list of 5 things that I needed to know. And I will share the first and the last, and the first piece of advice was a warning of a text message that I would receive from an ex. It said to completely ignore the text and to not reply, and if I did, it would just lead to trouble. There were 3 other pieces of advice that were very personal, and the final thing was simply just to stop panicking. And in about 10 minutes, I'll be wondering whether or not this was even real. I read that piece of paper about 100 times, and then I stuffed it into my coin pocket of my jeans, and then I remember getting the same headache again. I left the kitchen, went back to the bedroom. About 10 minutes later, the last thing that I remember was seeing a picture next to the bed of me and the strange blonde girl from downstairs that I didn't even recognize. And then the next thing I know, I stood in my kitchen in the actual house where I was living at the time that I experienced this, which was way back in 2019, and I was talking to my mother. I have no idea what I was talking to her about because I was under the impression that we were in mid-conversation. So he just kind of like woke up mid-conversation. Just seems so weird in the first house in 2019 again. I promptly proceeded to write down as much as I could of what I remembered, and that's when I made this post. What's even more strange is that I didn't wake up in the bed. I was talking to my mother, and I seemed to have teleported or transported to another time period in what could be some kind of like alternate dimension. I didn't recognize the house. I didn't recognize a blonde girl. It was like a different version of reality. Isn't that just crazy? So in one of these other episodes I record, I go through some stories of people that say that they've taken like psychedelics and had experiences like these where they claim it's another version of like a normal life, or they get to see different versions of their own life, like alternate dimensions, like possibilities or probabilities. There's also another one I'm going to get into about, they call it the NDE wheel, like the near-death experience wheel. It's like this big wheel that is like a version of that, like it kind of holds other possibilities or probabilities, and it just kind of goes through and like fixes things. Like some of the experiences are like car accidents, where they say they see this big wheel after they get in a car accident and it kind of hits them like water, but it's not water. It's just like almost like a portal that they go in. And consciousness like shifting and things like that. And some of these things seem to, you don't even need psychedelics for some of these stories. Like some people have these experiences with going under anesthesia for surgery. One guy has like an experience like this after getting like beat up really bad and all. He kind of makes a couple more little comments, but just the overall handing a note back to yourself, just strange. I don't know how much of this stuff we're supposed to like try to figure out. I'd like to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. Remember to click the RSS feed. The podcast is also on Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, a few different things like that, and YouTube, BitChute. My Patreon is Patreon.com/ParaDoxWalk. I'd like to thank my first Patreon, Roxy. The music is Downbeat 88, Moment of Peace, and The Dark are the names of the tracks. Thanks for listening. Have a good day. Bye.